You're all still here. That's a good thing. Before I start the last piece, sometimes I just got back from this crazy tour through the Midwest where I gave like 23 performances in like 5 weeks. It was intense. But what I did there was, it was a lot of fun because a lot of times I realized that, people have questions about me or the music or the piano or whatever. And a lot of times I have answers to things. And so we started doing like this. I started doing like this Q&A time with Charlie type deal in the second part of the programs that I was giving. And I thought it was a lot of fun. So I thought, why not tonight? Does anyone have a question they want to ask about me or the music or anything? Yeah. Yeah, my mom is here tonight. The question is, are my parents or my mom here? Yeah, they don't get to come see me play often because usually I don't get to play around home. But yeah, no, she's here tonight, so that's great. Yeah, my dad's at home, yeah. And my wife and my little baby daughter couldn't come tonight because she's only 5 months old, so. Yeah. But they're watching online, so hi, online people. Yes? So the question for those who didn't hear is, earlier I mentioned that I played a piece with Yo-Yo Ma, the Gabriel's Oboe, Nathan Dorma thing, and was that my arrangement? Yeah, I was just improvising it. Yeah, on the spot. Every time I play, it's a little bit different, yeah. The next piece I'm going to play is also going to be completely improvised, and we'll get to that in a bit. Hey, follow-up question, yeah. Do I have perfect pitch? Yes. Awesome, very cool. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay, so the question is, when I'm doing improvisations, what am I thinking about? Is it like technical, different chord progressions or theory stuff, or what, or Chopin's arpeggios or whatever? That's actually a really good question. I often, I guess you'll see me kind of do it next, but I think of improvising as kind of like playing with Legos. So. If you have like a big box of Legos and it's all different colors and it's all different shapes and stuff, if you want to build a boat or a house or whatever, you just take what you have and you put them together and you make what you want. You don't start painting the Legos and cutting up and, making different shapes. And it's kind of like that. So as you build up your box of like Lego things, it might be a certain chord progression or it might be something that works. So whenever you're improvising and you see something or play something, you're like, oh, that sounds good. You could like put it in your Lego box and then save it for later. And if it doesn't, you just chuck it out. And so it's kind of like that. It's not, I don't think about chord progressions or whatever. So like for this next piece, I'll improvise a sonata. So I'll make it 3 parts. And I'll actually get notes from you all. And so I don't have to worry about that. And I'll just be thinking about, okay, I want each one to be, maybe each movement to be 7-8 minutes long, so the whole thing's 20-some minutes, and the mood and the feel that I want, and not what chord progression I'm going to a 1 to a 4 to, I don't think about that. Yeah. Any other questions before we move? Yes, sir.
How hard is it to memorize everything that you're playing and have no music?
How hard is it to memorize everything I'm playing with no music? For me, the memory part is fast. The slow part is sight reading because I'm bad at sight reading. Some people, you can sit down anything and they can play it just from the spot. I found, though, that a lot of times, some people can, there's exceptions, but I found that a lot of times people who are really good with sight reading maybe struggle more with the memory part, and the people who are really bad at sight reading, the memory part comes a little bit more easily, but it's basically muscle memory. You aren't thinking about where your fingers, it's kind of like walking. If you're walking and you start thinking about how your toes and your ankles and your legs are all moving, suddenly you forget how to walk, right? So if you're playing and you're thinking about, how are my hands moving, then that's like a train wreck waiting to happen. But if you can kind of forget about what you're physically doing and feel more about what you want to bring out of the music and what you want to say with it, then that's a lot better. Have one more question, then we'll move on. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about how you practice and your strategy and
How much do I practice and my strategy? I don't practice enough, but I was never one of those people who practice 8, 10, 12 hours a day. If I did that, I would probably, I'd almost definitely quit. Because some people do that. There's people, in a lot of the schools I went to and stuff who'd practice all day long, and for me that was never. I always tried to aim for a couple hours a day, but it really depends. the last, the 15 whatever years, I've been performing a lot. And so a lot of it depends on where I am. If I even have a piano I can practice on. Because a lot of performing is not just practice, but it's like psychological, right? You have to kind of it's almost like being an athlete in a way. You have to kind of peak at the right time of the day, and a whole bunch of stuff. It's how you feel. But yeah, so it really varies. Okay, so that leads us to the last piece on the program, which I have not practiced, which is great. That's the great thing about improvisation. So improvisation actually used to be super, super common in classical music. Like a lot of, it was normal. It was normal. So if you look at back in like Beethoven's time, Mozart's time, a lot of concertos, pieces for like piano with an orchestra, it was all written out until a part where the orchestra stops and the pianist was supposed, or the soloist, whatever instrument it was for, was supposed to just make stuff up for like 5 minutes. And then the orchestra would join in at the end and then continue on their way. That's called a cadenza. And then kind of in Beethoven's time and later on, it kind of like became a lost art. They started writing out cadenzas for people to play because people were unable to make up their own. And it kind of wasn't taught anymore. But for me, I started piano when I was like 3, and until I was 7 or 8, I didn't read a note of music. So I played everything from like Great Balls of Fire to the Backstreet Boys and everything except for Mozart and Beethoven, things like that. And but I always loved to make up my own stuff, whether it be a cover of a piece, like kind of like that Gabriel's Oboe I played earlier, or something completely from scratch, basically just composing on the spot. So many years ago, I started in my touring incorporating, like playing a short piece of music that I would just make up. But a couple mentors of mine, they said, Charlie, what you should do is instead of sitting down and playing a new piece of music you just make up on the spot every night you perform, you should ask 3 or 4 people for a random note, use those random notes as the basis of as a random melody, and use that random melody as the basis of a random, hopefully not so random sounding piece of music. And that way, they said, people aren't going to think that you're cheating by playing something you already practiced ahead of time and are just kind of spinning off as an improv. So I started doing that, and it's really fun because you really, really don't know what you're going to get. So I thought tonight I would do a longer piece of music, so a sonata, kind of like the Beethoven one we did, 3 parts, and maybe 7-8 minutes for each movement, but based on some notes that we get tonight here in Town Hall. So if I could get 3 or 4 people just to give me a single note on the piano, like an F sharp or a B flat or a C or whatever, we'll use that to make a new piece of music together tonight. Yeah. B flat. That's one. How about one in the back? G. 2 more. Yes. D flat. Okay, how about one more? Oh yeah, there. A sharp. Let's talk after the concert, eh? All right, so let's do a 3-part piece, a sonata. Let's call it Town Hall Seattle, because why not?